Often we expect divorce or breakups to be loud, with anger and conflict. Yet, what shows up most is quieter and much more persistent. It sits in the chest, it wakes you up at night, and tells you that you have failed. And that's what we call guilt. Guilt says you did something wrong, that you are a bad partner or that you are a bad parent, that you broke something that should have stayed intact. However, guilt is not always telling the truth. Many times, guilt is an echo of rules you never choose. It's a loyalty to the past rather than a compass for your present. So let's try to slow this down because context really matters. Guilt has a function, Guilt signals that you care about the impact of your actions. And without it, you might just pack a bag, slam the door, and never look back. So guilt can keep you tethered to your values and to other people, to the people that you love. Yet the trouble begins when guilt becomes overactive. It stops being a signal and becomes a verdict. It keeps you stuck in a story where movement is dangerous and loyalty requires self-erasure. So, where does this come from? More often, guilt comes from a belief system that you absorb early in life. Ideas like good parents sacrifice everything for the children, good partners stay no matter what, and private needs come second to family harmony. These messages are so powerful, and it doesn't mean they were spoken aloud. Most times, instead, they live in glances at the dinner table, in what was praised and what was criticized, in our community settings, and also in what felt possible for the adults around you at that time. So when you consider leaving a relationship that is not working, or when you ask for space, or when you name a need that might disrupt the routine, your nervous system hears those old rules snapping. The inner alarm sounds and guilt arises. Not necessarily because you're wrong, but because you're breaking with tradition, with the tradition of those ideas. So your body is reacting to the risk of change. That risk of change, while your mind might still be trying to sort out the ethics of your choice. So here is an important distinction that is going to help. I want you to understand there are two types of guilt. One is healthy and the other one is toxic. Healthy guilt says you acted out of alignment with your values, so it invites repair. On the other hand, the toxic guilt says you're wrong, simply for valuing yourself. Healthy guilt asks for accountability, whereas toxic guilt demands self-abandonment. Now, I want you to take a breath with me. I want you to place a hand on your chest if that helps you anchor, and I want you to notice what arises as you hear these words. Perhaps a memory knocks at the door, a moment you stay when you wanted to go, maybe a promise that you made and now feels impossible to keep. Let whatever arrives be here for a moment and meet it without judgment. I want you to offer 3 lenses to help you sort through guilt and love, because clarity grows when we change the angle of view. So the first lens is the inherited rules. I want you to ask yourself whose voice you are hearing. Maybe a parent who equated endurance with virtue. Maybe a community that reads divorce as moral failure. Perhaps a spiritual story that places sacrifice at the center. None of these voices are bad in themselves, and they often carry dignity and history. However, the question is whether they fit the life you are building now. Loyalty to your upbringing can coexist with loyalty to yourself when you consciously choose rules that serves you. The second lens is belonging. Many of us maintain relationships through compliance. We stay agreeable to stay included in what system we live, and boundary settings look like betrayal. So if you were taught that love is proven through self-neglect, and then any act of self-respect will feel transgressive, and there is where guilt is going to arise. Not because the act is harmful, but because it threatens the glue that has held the system together. The third lens is impact versus prediction. Guilt often punishes us for imagined outcomes. For example, we can predict that I will ruin the family. We can predict that we will destroy the family, the children, etc. So many of these stories. Now, I want you to notice how quickly the mind writes catastrophe and then check reality. What happens to children when the temperature of the home rises and stays high? Yeah, they adapt, yet they also absorb. Peaceful co-parenting, clear routines, and honest conversations at their developmental level tend to help children thrive more than performative togetherness inside a Cold War. So the story that staying is always noble and living is always selfish is far too simple for the complexity of family life. Let's make this practical, because ideas only help when they touch daily life. When guilt surges, I want you to try a short sequence. I want you to name, locate, and translate. So when you name it, I want you to say internally that this is guilt. Name the emotion reduces its powers to define you. Now, I want you to locate it. Where does it live in the body? In the throat? In the jaw? Chest perhaps? Maybe in the gut? Breathe into that place for 3 cycles, slower on exhale so your nervous system can settle. Now, I want you to translate it. Ask which rule is being activated right now, and then ask whose rule is this. Finally, ask whether this rule helps you build a life that is honest and alive for yourself. Now, pause here if you want a moment to write, because writing often turns noise into information. Now, I want us to look at 3 moments where guilt commonly appears in romantic transitions. and let's meet each with clarity and the language that you can use. The moment one, let's talk about the decision to stay or to leave. Guilt often says you own the relationship one more try. Sometimes that's true, and many relationships can evolve when both people are willing to do real work. But sometimes one more try is a way to postpone a decision that you have already made in your bonds. So the question to ask is not whether you are avoiding discomfort. The question is whether you are acting with integrity. Integrity can mean staying to repair, yet it can also mean leaving to stop the slow erosion of both of you. You can try this line if you're choosing to stay and repair. So you can say something like, I am committed to rebuilding, and I will need us to change how we do conflict, time together, and responsibilities at home. I am willing to do my part, and I will not carry both sides of the work. You can also try this other line now if you're choosing to leave. And you can say, I know this is painful to hear, and I have reached the end of what I can do inside this relationship. I am choosing the path that is most honest for me, and I will take responsibility for a respectful transition. Now, moment two. Let's talk about co-parenting choices. Guilt says you ruin the children's home. Responsibility says you can create two homes that are safe, are warm, and predictable. Children read nervous system more than statements, so they need caregivers who are regulated, available, and sincere. In separation increases emotional safety, guilt might protest while reality improves. So create rituals across both homes and keep adult topics out of children's ears. And speak of the other parent with respect, okay? Repair quickly when you sleep, because that's something that could happen as well, because repair teaches your kids resilience. Now, here is a co-parenting script that you can adapt. You can say, our relationship as parents is ending, and our relationship as parents is permanent. We will keep our agreements. We will not use our kids as messengers, and we will listen to how this feels for our kids as they grow. Now, moment three. Let's talk about boundaries with extended family and community. Guilt says you owe everybody an explanation and a vote. Discernment says you own yourself a boundary. I want you to decide in advance how much you want to share and with whom. People who have earned intimacy can receive more of our story, while others can receive a simple headline or some sort of a kind decline. You do not have to litigate your private life in public. You don't have to. You can try a short boundary that could sound like this. Thank you for caring. I am keeping the details of this private. I appreciate your understanding. That's it. Now, let's return to the inner process, because guilt thrives in isolation. Bring your experience into trusted relationships where you can reality test your theories. This is not about collecting permission. It's about being witnessed as you sort what is yours to carry and what belongs to the past. I will explain you 2 practices to help you metabolize guilt rather than marinating in it. The practice 1 is compassionate accountability. If you have done harm, please own it, repair it, and learn from it. Apologize without self-punishment. State the impact, state what you will do differently, and then live that commitment, so in this way, healthy guilt becomes growth rather than shame. Now, the practice 2 is daily self-respect reps. I want you to choose one small act each day that honors your limits. For example, you can say no to an obligation that drains you, and you can ask for specific help. Or perhaps tell the truth about how you feel. Each rep teaches you, and your nervous system as well, that self-respect does not end love. Rather, it clarifies love. So you might notice grief underneath guilt. There is grief for the version of you who tried for so long, or grief for the dream that you carry for your family, or even grief for the image you wanted others to see. You need to allow that grief, because when grief is welcome, guilt softens. Guilt tries to rewrite the past, while grief lets the past be in the past and makes a space for what is next. Before we close, I want you to try a quick guide check-in that you can repeat anytime, especially when guilt spikes. I want you to sit upright with your feet grounded. I want you to inhale for 4, hold for 2, and exhale for 6. Do that twice. Name the emotion that is more present right now. Name the rule that is active, and name one loyal act towards yourself that you will take in the next 24 hours. Keep it small and keep it concrete. A direct conversation, a boundary, or a moment of rest you usually deny yourself. And then I want you to write it down. Put it in your calendar and keep the promise, because follow through builds trust in yourself. Guilt will visit again. It always does. And when it does, let it be in a messenger rather than a jailer. Let it remind you that you care, and then ask it to step aside while you choose with clarity. You are allowed to be loyal to your well-being, and to the people that you love. And both can coexist when you act with honesty and care. See you soon.